Hi everyone, so as promised we're going to run through the card that I posted earlier this week. So these are the examples that we've got here. For the one that's on Facebook at the moment we use the festive fragrance, but I'm actually going to use a little bit of festive fir cones as well today. So they're the cards that we're going to be sort of replicating. And for it I'm using festive fir cones. I'm going to use a little bit of the seasonal branches, the lovely lanterns, so we're using the candles from there, and then also the framed circle. So first thing we've done, we've used a little bit of the removable adhesive tape runner and we've put it on the back of the whole of the circle stencils. So what I'm going to do is just remove the centre panel here. So I'm just going to leave everything else in place, and then I'm just going to go to the back of this and then using a little bit of the wax paper, we're just going to find the circle by rubbing on the back. So this will also help your ball tool glide. Now, if you don't want to emboss it, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to. But I just think it gives it a really, really nice finish. So you'll be able to see the little line coming through here as well. So use your bigger embossing tool. Let me put my glasses on. Use the bigger embossing tool just to sort of trace around the outside of that circle, just making sure that you push it right down, and then the same for this middle line as well. So just use your embossing tool. So use the biggest embossing tool that you've got, and then just work your way slightly smaller. So basically this is just going to stop you poking straight through. If you use one that's too small to start you off, you're more likely to go straight through your cardstock. So just crisp that off with a smaller one, just like that. Just make sure that these are sort of tacked down nice and well at the front before you put that on. So then it's a case of adding your colour. So we're going to pop a little bit of pine cone on here. So this is also sort of push your cardstock into your stencil as well. So it really helps when you're colouring to stop getting colour under your stencil, and also the adhesive will help you with that as well. So just turn your card as you work, and then just start to rub this colour on. And if you do prefer brushes as well, you can use brushes. I just find this a bit more controllable for me. I find this a lot easier. But sometimes if you've got something that's quite detailed, you're possibly going to need a brush anyway. But with this, it really doesn't matter that much. So you can, if you know you're going to be stamping over this at the end, you could actually miss a bit of the embossing out. So say we wanted stamping down this side, we could perhaps not put any colour behind there or use it very, very pale. So again, it's entirely up to you what you want to do with it. Okay, so once we've got that, then what we need to do is start to add our candles. So I'm going to take all of this away. Okay, just peel that off. And then we can just rub away any excess of adhesive in there as well. And then we're just going to take our outer mask off as well. So that gives us that lovely little circle that we had. Okay, so again, just make sure that you haven't got any of that adhesive on the front. So hopefully you'll be able to see that nice raised effect that we've got there as well. So now it's a case of positioning your little candles. So I'm going to start at the bottom. It's always easier to start at the bottom. Make sure this has got plenty of tack on there. Okay, and we're going to put our first candle about here. Now, we have to leave a gap when we're making stencils here. So you might want to move the candle flame down a little bit. So I'll show you how to do that first. We're going to just rub on the back where the little candle is. Okay, so try not to go over your circle. And then all we're going to do is just, can you see we're just taking it roughly down to where the line of the circle is. Now, because I want to move my candle flame down, I'm going to go back to the front and we're just going to move the stencil just down a little bit, and then we're going to rub on the wax paper on the back so we can just emboss the little flame as well. So we've just moved it down a little bit like that. Okay, so at this point, if you want to add a little bit of colour, you can go back and do this afterwards if you want, but you can just add a little bit of grey just for that candle there. So I'm just using a little bit of Chateau Grey just for a little bit of shading on the candle, like that. And then we move on to our next one. So if you always start with all the candles that you want at the bottom first, and then just work your way up. So let's put one about here. And again, just make sure it's tacked down really, really well. I tend to keep my finger on it roughly so I know where I'm going to be rubbing with my paper. And then just find that candle. And you know it's right next to the one that we've just done, so we know it's like sort of here. And I'm just going to find that and just take it again, just roughly down to that little point there where our little circle is. And then you can do the same with this. Well, let's put some grey on it first before we actually move it. So just a bit of shading onto that candle, mostly at the bottom. And then what we can do is just move that down a little bit, and then we can emboss our little candle. And basically you're just going to keep going like that until you've got the amount of candles that you want in there. So we might just do 3 or 4 in here. I know you really need odd numbers, but let's just make sure we've got that nice and embossed like that. And we've already done the grey on there as well. So on the one we did earlier, we've actually got, I think it's 5 on there. So let's just do, hope you can sort of just bear with me on this so we can get this done the way we would like it. And then let's just rub on the back of this one. So just in there like that. And then you just stop in where your circles emboss. So just try not to go over that little area there, like that. And then we're just going to move that down again. And we'll just put one more big one in the background there so you get to see the whole thing. And just emboss over the top of this here, like that. And just emboss your flames. Now we're going to colour over the flames afterwards. You can colour, if you want all the colour inside your flames, then do like we've just done with the candle and add your shading before you take your stencil away. Okay, so I'm just going to move that and put a little bit of shadow onto our little candle there. So let's use a little bit of the Chateau Grey. So just sort of at the bottom edge and maybe a bit along one side, just like that. Okay, so one big one, I'm going to put it right up here like that. So it's sort of going to be in between all of those candles. In fact, let's go about there. So on the back of your card where you can see embossing, that's where you're just going to stop. Okay, so let's get our wax paper again. Okay, so we can see the candle there, and I can also see where I've done the other embossing. So again, all we're going to do is just stop embossing when we hit any other embossed line. So just like that. And then again, we're just going to move the little candle flame down just a tad, like that. And then we're going to go back and emboss that one as well on the back. Okay, and again with your smaller one. Now what I always forget to do is put the little wicks in, so you just want to use a fine liner for that. So let's just add a tiny little bit of colour onto this one as well. Now I don't want to sort of interfere with the actual flames of the other candle, so I'm just going to use a tiny little bit just in one corner, just like that. Okay. So next thing, we've got all our little candles in here. So you can see how they're all overlapped. They all look like they're in front of each other. So what we're going to do is add our colour. Now I'm going to use the Canary and the Camellia for this. But they are quite new, as you can see. So I do want to get rid of an awful lot of this colour before it actually goes on. Okay. So take some of this off. And then you're just going to start to blend on the top of each one. If it's too bright, just get rid of some. But remember, when you actually add your red to this, it will calm this yellow down as well. Okay, So ordinarily I'd have put another candle in there, but just to make the video just that little bit shorter, we'll leave it with the 4. So once you've got yellow, a little bit of the red, and again, this is quite a bright red, so you don't want, this is a camellia. So get most of that off, and then you're going to start just gently, just to sort of start to blend that over the top here like this. So before we do anything else and move on to the rest of the card, what I'm going to do is just do those little candle wicks, because otherwise I know I will forget. So take your fine liner and you're just going to draw your little candle wick in, and it really brings that candle to life once you do that. So just like that over the top. So now we're going to use some festive fir cones in here. So we're going to do a bit of pine cones in pine cone ink, and let's just start to stamp. Now you can stamp over your embossing, so don't worry about that, because they're quite deep, the edges on these stamps. You can actually just press that little bit hard, and it'll just take, you don't need to press very hard, just press that little bit harder, and that'll give you the stamping just over the whole of the embossing. Okay, so there's our little fir cones in. Let's do a couple more of the tall ones. So you can take them up the candle as well, which I quite like. And I'll show you a couple more before we actually finish. I'll show you a couple of the other cards that we've made using the same technique, but they're just slightly different. So this is the holly from the festive fir cones, and we're just going to sort of fill in those little gaps. But this is a very pretty set as well. I love this set. It's got quite a lot of greens in it, greenery. Okay, and again, up to you how much you use. You could do this all the way around the wreath. It actually looks nice in green, the wreath, in this sort of bamboo colour that we're using. You see how easy they are to use with the little rods as well. It makes all the difference in the world. And then what we'll do is put this little branch on. So we're going to use this in brown. This is all in the same set, by the way. This is all the festive fir cones. But this is such a delicate and pretty little branch. So let's just add a few of those in. But it's such a pretty little branch, this one. Let's just do a little bit more up the side there. Okay, and also in this one you get a little flower, but you could do this in burgundy if you wanted to, but I'm just going to keep with the browns that we've already done. Just over the top like that. Okay, and there we go. So the next thing I'm going to do is just put some glue. So I'm just using the Quickie glue pen. I'm just going to go over these candles. So we're going to make these candles sparkle. Okay, and we're going to do that before we actually put the glossy accents on there for the candle flames. So let's just take this. So this is your glamour dust, and we're just going to add that over the top. Now, while your ink's wet, it's obviously going to stick to everything, but once this is dry, you can brush it off the areas that you don't actually want. And then we're going to put some glossy accents just on these little flames here. So don't be afraid to sort of give this quite a dolloping. You want it to be quite dimensional when this dries. The only thing is you have to leave it flat, but it makes such a massive, massive difference to the look of the candles when you've finished. And I've just thought what we've done there as well is left a little space. Now if I can, we will just stamp a little greeting in there if it will fit, if I'm not going to damage. Right, we'll take a chance. And let's just see if we can get this in without... See, I don't think these things through, do I? Okay, so let's pop that in about here. So let's hope we don't damage any of that glossy accent. So if you're doing this, do this first before you do your glossy accents. This is a bit of an afterthought. Okay, and there we go. So there's our little finished sample that we've got there. So I hope you find that relatively easy. I forgot as well, I've not actually put the seasonal branches in, but if you're going to use these, because they're quite big, I only ink the top half of the stamp up and just use this little bit, so that could also be dotted in if you like. But also we did this one here, which is just very, very simple with a little scene in. And then this one here, we've done just using one candle. So if you don't want to do 5, then you can just as easily do the 1. So I hope that's helped, and I hope that's been easy to follow. Thank you so much, and thanks for watching. Bye.